Hello, trading is closed on October 10th, 2019. Let's go over our calls. We put in writing what we said. Yesterday we said the pattern had the early high, which it certainly did. It said unless there was early strength, which futures are saying there won't be, it's a down day with a low in the final hour. Futures were down about 30 handles when I wrote this, but futures lied and there was early strength. All those 30 handles have been recovered pretty much by the open. So this idea was killed before the open, or at least soon thereafter. A few things to notice about this pattern. You start out with the low of the day, rally all day, and this closing price can't take out any of the highs. It's a negative pattern, leads to lower prices unless we gap and take this high out early. Other side of the coin is we have a pattern which usually closes at the day's low. When you don't, it's positive unless you gap and take this low of the day out early. So conflicting signals, and we have the standard rules for conflicting signals, which we'll go over at the end. Typically, you're going to trade out of this range pretty fast. Well, when the market's trending, you don't really need MEJT or other systems that much. You just go with the flow. When it is trendless like this, MEJT struts its stuff. Early on, it gave a buy signal. We got the higher prices. It said that the rally wouldn't last. We'd retrace to this line, which we did. It said optionally we'd undercut this line, which we did. It said this drop was false, we'd retrace. Said the rally was false, we'd retrace. Said the drop was false, we'd retrace. And everything worked like a charm. It's good to have a system to help you out on days like today. Well, I'm going to get into tomorrow's call in just a minute, but I'm going to talk about the long-term pattern first, even though I usually save that for the weekend. And the reason is I had two separate people contact me and tell me that this pattern was an ending diagonal triangle and the whole bull move was over, because this is A, B, C, D, E, and then we fall into the basement. I think it's a very interesting interpretation, and it's helped by the fact that this wave here is very difficult to count as a 3 or a 5. I don't agree with the interpretation for a number of reasons. The first is I don't think Elliott wave should be used alone. There are other indicators, and the other indicators I watch are really not compatible with this bull market being over. So why don't I agree with this? Well, let's go over first reason number 3. I'm calling this a 5-wave rally, calling this a 5-wave rally, and although it's hard to count 5 waves on the daily chart, it's possible with some effort to count them on an hourly chart. I think it's a 5 and not a 3. If you connect the highs of wave 1 and wave 3, and you draw a parallel line at the end of wave 2, you're supposed to approximate wave 4, which it does, and that adds to my conviction that this wave is a 5 and not a 3, so that's one. The other is, if this is an A, B, C, D, E, supposedly, according to people who know, once you undercut this line, you're going to drop like a stone with the target of hitting this. You don't usually come back like that. Again, that's not a hard and fast rule, but it's a principle. But to me, the real clincher, I think this last wave, what they're calling E, which should be a 3-wave structure, in their interpretation, I think is a clear 5. Now you can count any 5 as a 3 if you want to, but if it's a 3, you shouldn't really be able to count it as a 5. And that's 1, and that's 2, and there's 3 with its 5 waves, 4 and 5. And you can see, if you want to gild a lily, that You take waves 1 through 3, and 5 is a nice Fibonacci target. So it doesn't make me right, but that's the reason I'm not going to use that interpretation of the pattern. Well, let's forget about this long-term stuff and talk about tomorrow. There is resistance at today's high, and I'm hoping today's high holds. This is again fan 1 by 1 line, 345 points, 346 days. That's close enough for me. Here's a direct hit here, and here's a nice hit, and here's a hit right at that line. Usually when you have a trend line like this, either you gap over it or the trend line wins. I'm going to stick with this count. I like this to be the end of magenta B, and frankly, I'd like today's high to hold too. There was resistance there from the Gann fan, but that's not the only resistance. This chart might look confusing, so let's just do it by color codes. Earlier on, we had a diamond on stilts. Here's your stilt. Here's your stilt in blue. Here's the origin of the left stilt, and there's your support. You challenge the support early. It's the initial challenge, but if you wait about 2-3 days and challenge it again, support fails and you drop like a stone. We now have back-to-back diamond on stilts pattern. This is an inverted one. Here's your stilt. Here's your stilt. Origin of the left stilt is resistance. Height of the stilt is a Fibonacci target. The high of today is a Fibonacci target of the height of the stilt. We challenge this again tomorrow. It's the initial challenge, but if you wait 2 or 3 days and you challenge it again, you rally in grand style. The wave count I have says that's not going to happen. Wave count I have, so anytime you re-challenge this level, which is what, 28.98 or so, that it'll break and you'll drop like a stone. So tomorrow's pattern has the early high. We could gap down first, have conflicting signals. The failure of the pattern to close near the low is bullish, unless we undercut the low promptly after a gap. The failure of the rally to overtake any prior high is negative, unless we gap and take out the high. Conflicting signals, standard rule. Usually you gap and you make a prompt move outside the range. Next most common is you have a close that'll change within 4 points of today's close, have the big move Monday. Once in a great while, neither one of those things happen. I have resistance at the high of the day. I'm hoping it holds. Back-to-back diamond on stilts. If the price representing the origin of the left stilt of either pattern breaks after a few days of the pattern being established, you get a big move, and the wave count suggests the big move is going to be down. That's what to look for, and that's today's call.